Ooh. Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom. The unconscious. It's just fair. A second of 10 lectures. Okay.
Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom.
Okay. Mr. Edogawa, he's the science teacher, I guess. I don't know. Hello there, everyone. It's time for Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom. Everyone loves Jungian psychology, an invitation to the youth that you don't know. Today is installment number 2, the unconscious. It's just fair. Do you remember the last lecture? You're not already just glossing over it, are you? Here. Now let's begin the class. Sirius, Atar, Baisana. I don't know their names. Alright. You've heard me say Jung this and Jung that, but thinking back on it, I never explained who Jung is, did I? So this time I'll give you some biographical details throughout this lesson. Carl Jung was born in Switzerland in 1875. By the turn of the century, he had begun his career as a psychiatrist. Okay. He became a doctor who counselled people with mental illnesses. At the time, psychiatry was still in the very early stages of development, but there was one effective method of treatment known at the time. That method was hypnosis. Ooh. The unconscious found by hypnosis. Through the use of hypnosis, Jung and his fellow doctors were able to treat their patients' mental illnesses. While under hypnosis, the patients displayed sides of themselves that had never been seen, as well as alternate personalities. So where did these hidden sides and other personalities come from? That became the question. What? Juju, I have no idea. Don't know. Where are they hiding, essentially? If man could be aware of all the aspects of his mind, there should be nowhere to hide, but as it happened, there was. The conclusion that the psychiatrist came to was that there existed an area of the mind that people are not aware of. Yeah, the subconscious, right? The unconscious. That is, of course, the unconscious, the opposite of the conscious. And that is how doctors like Jung first discovered the existence of the unconscious in those days. I'm sure many of you know, but the one who contributed the most to the discovery of the unconscious was Sigmund Freud. Freud could be considered Jung's mentor, but unfortunately we don't have much time in these lessons to discuss their relationship. The unconscious was discovered by a group of extraordinary men, but now just remember that fact. Now, let me ask you, when you think of the unconscious, how do you feel? Mad respect. It's scary. Perhaps fear is the natural reaction, that which is beyond your own comprehension is always scary. It's like that in general, but perhaps your feelings about the unconscious will change after these lectures. Proof of unconscious. If you tell me it's there, I feel vaguely like it is, but in daily life it's hard to believe because you can't sense it. However, Jung and the others claimed that you can detect the unconscious in your daily life even without hypnosis. One way is through slips, clinically known as parapraxis. Things like a slip of the tongue or forgetting to do things fall into this category. Interesting. That's interesting. You've been in situations where you accidentally called someone, such as your teacher mummy, right? What you meant to say was Miss Seiko. Seiko. But something else slipped out. The unconscious is closer than you thought. Another way to detect the unconscious is in dreams. That's easy to see, you know? Typically one dreams of things that are not possible in the real world. You may have surprised yourself before with dreams of things you've never experienced, haven't you? They really were beyond your imagination, weren't they? Something your conscious mind could never come up with. Dreams are quite close to the unconscious. Dreams are an important subject of study in Jungian psychology. We'll go over that in another lecture. Mental illness, the unconscious going wild. As a psychiatrist, Jung considered the unconscious to be a big problem. Why? Because he considered it to be the cause of mental illness. This is how he saw things. In a healthy mind, the conscious was in control, reigning in the unconscious. But for his mentally ill patients, the unconscious broke free of its reins and ran amok. Is the unconscious evil? Hearing it that way, you might think that the unconscious is a bad thing, but that's not quite how Jung saw it. An uncontrolled conscious taking over is a bad thing, yes, but the unconscious itself is not innately bad. What led him to say this, you might ask? His observations as a psychiatrist led him to realise that the cause of mental illness was actually on the conscious side. When you suppress your emotions too tightly, or work too hard, or stress yourself to your limit, the unconscious makes its move. Essentially, when the conscious mind becomes overtaxed and unbalanced, the unconscious mind comes out as if to stop it. The unconscious compensates for the conscious when the latter overextends itself. Overextends itself. In this way, the unconscious definitely seems like something you'd want to have. Its role is to balance the mind, the ego within the conscious. Now then, so far we have learned to view the mind as divided into conscious and unconscious halves. Next, let's talk about you. The you of your conscious mind is referred to in Jungian psychology as the ego. This too is now a common term, which makes things complicated. But for purposes of this lecture, when I say ego, it will carry the Jungian meaning. The ego is the center of the conscious and in most respects is the mind, but it is only you in the conscious sense. The domain of the ego does not extend into the unconscious. This will be a key point later on in our studies of Jungian psychology. So let me ask you again, when you think of the unconscious, how do you feel? I don't feel anything. That answer does make you sound like a big shot, but from what I'm sensing, it seems the lecture is a bit overwhelming for you. That worries me. Well, pick up on what you can, I suppose. Ego within the conscious. Essentially, you are residents of the conscious, so our thinking is based towards it. We take the conceited view that we are the masters of our own minds, when in truth the mind is nothing but a tiny conscious working on the support of unconscious massive energies. If you forget that, I'm sure you see now. Well then, our time is up. Next time I'll cover the amazing disposition of the mind as advocated by John. So ends today's lesson. Alright. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Alright, you know what, I'm gonna take a... Oh my god, I'm feeling really tired. I'm just gonna take a... I'm just gonna take a quick little break. I might be back in like in an hour or so. Thanks for watching and I'll see you whenever. Bye.